Hi, this is Shirish Kulkarni, founder and CEO of STROTA Consultech, running this organization for last 5 years and focusing on growth of small and medium businesses. We have, we have been running this initiative called as HATKE to talk to various business leaders, industry leaders, individuals who have contributed to various institutions, heads of institutions, and we have a great pleasure to have Mr. Bharat Agarwal, who is the president of Vishwakarma as a group. So great to have Bharatji with us.
Thank you so much. It's so much of an honor for me to be present over here. Thank you so much.
Right. He being in the business of education as well has got a company which is into aluminum die casting, which is around 100 crores company in itself. I would like to understand, Bharatji, how do you manage to keep tab on all this, having, a university, a group of so many initiatives, and also a manufacturing company?
So I believe, of course, we do hardly anything. The team does. The team does all the work on the ground, and that's the practice that we have been following. Not even today, but maybe very early days when my father set up the college about 35 years back. Set up a good team, empower them, structure them well, give them responsibility, and give them authority. Uh, have your interventions at a frequent level. When a new initiative is there, be more frequently present so that the initiative takes off well. After the initiative sets in and becomes more or less like a routine job, then leave it to people to improvise and improve on it rather than you micromanaging it. So
Wonderful.
this is a philosophy that we have been practicing across every unit of ours. In the early days of Vishwakarma Institute of Information Technology, which was in 2003, 2004, I used to visit the college almost every day. Now I may physically visit the campus only about once in a month or even once in 2 months sometimes. I remember 2009 when we started the factory, I was visiting that every day. In fact, the full day I used to spend at the factory for the first 2 years, 3 years. But subsequently, now I only visit it once a week. And in the last pandemic days of 3 months, I would have visited only 2 times in the last 3 months. But the teams are there, well managed, good quality people to lead the teams. It's well structured also, so everyone knows their jobs well. They are trained, they are continuously trained, I would say, and they are responsible and they have the required empowerment to do their jobs.
Wonderful. I think there's a good example of how the top management should be, having the controls enough to get the pulse of the organization, visit at the right point in time, do the interventions which are necessary, and also let the team get developed in the form of they being trained, they've been having the authority, responsibility to really drive the show. I think that is the message that is loud and clear. Now, moving on to the education space, and I think that's where would be area in which we would definitely like to know what are the strengths that you see in an educational organization that anything like a pandemic hitting does not move it, does not you still are cool to really look at that as a opportunity, right?
So in the education space, primarily what the pandemic has done is it has removed the concept of infrastructure, or I would say physical infrastructure. Uh, on ancient days on, we always believed in the system of gurukuls and schools and universities where students come, and they come from various parts of the country, from various parts of the globe. Teachers come from the same diversity, and there is a transfer of knowledge. There are innovations, there is discussions, there is also fun. There is a camaraderie that develops amongst all the stakeholders, or I would say all the occupants of that space, and life grows. Unfortunately, the pandemic has removed this concept called infrastructure or a common place where all these people assemble. So I think the strength on which we were able to go through this pandemic was primarily on this quality of people on both sides, the faculty side and the student side. We have been of the philosophy right from our day of inception that educational institutes are built on two pillars. The first pillar is you should have great people, great teachers, I mean. And second is you should have committed students. If both these come together, education can happen under a tree. I agree, not literally it is true, but if commitment from teachers, quality of teachers is there, and there is an equal commitment shown by students, like we have seen in this pandemic situation, everything moved online. Everything moved
Mm-hmm.
online. We of course missed a few things that were required or that was their physical education or physical campus education gave us. But the commitment of teachers and the commitment of students did not stop engagement, did not stop learning, did not stop innovations. Uh, in fact, I would say a lot of improvisations have happened
Okay.
in the last 3 months that we could do because of the constraints that we were put in. So, to answer your question once again, I believe the strength on which we work and we will continue to work is a good quality team of teachers and good committed students to work together on our platform.
Wonderful, wonderful. I believe as we have seen with various organizations, when we are getting pushed as a humankind to wall, and compelled to do with the constraints and more tighter constraints. I believe some innovations, some innovative ways of doing the things, some maybe a hatke way of executing the same thing has got evolved. So maybe some of the examples you would like to share how it got working in a different way.
See, primarily, I believe the way we moved, or I would say not only us, but the entire education system of the country moved after the lockdown started in March was towards online,
Mm-hmm.
which is a more digitized way of teaching. We were, I believe, a bit proactive. So digitization of our teaching learning was not something new that we had to do. We started this journey about 3 years back, 2015-16, if I remember. And we have been promoting use of technology, use of online platforms to engage students, not from the point of view of forecasting the pandemic. None of us forecasted this, I'm sure.
Yeah, nobody was
But
aware.
more from the point of view that the consumers, which is the end students for us, were appreciating it. So when we could relate ourselves to the 2015-16 era,
Mm-hmm.
when we had students watching YouTube videos or watching Coursera videos or watching videos of eminent educationists and professors of IIT Bombay, IIM Bangalore
Mm-hmm.
on the net,
Mm-hmm.
and engaging well with them, it gave us a thinking that this is the way students want to learn in the future. And when they want to learn this way in the future, it is required that we adapt to it. So it was way back then that we started implementing the flipped classroom model of education, where we pushed our teachers to teach online and engage students in the classrooms for more discussion-based topics, which means more problem solving,
Mm-hmm.
more project work, uh, more debates, and more question and answer sessions. So the monologue was shifted online, and the
Okay,
dialogue happened in the classroom. So
superb.
this was initiated. Of course, I would not say it met with 100% success in the initial days because it was a change.
Mm-hmm.
But the first to adapt were the students because they demanded it. Not saying it, but they did not mention it, but they appreciated it, which meant that they were demanding it maybe silently. The
Right.
teachers were pushed. They were pushed. They were taught. They were groomed. They were developed. There were early movers, then there were late movers, then the middle movers. Of course, in the pandemic, everyone is a mover now in that space. Uh,
Right.
because of this early proactive move of ours, I believe we saw a pretty smooth conversion of physical education to to the online system of education. Second, answering to you about how do we work, how do we change or improvise when pushed against the wall. Uh, we have honestly all these tools even 3-4 years back, but seldom use them because primarily of our own mindset that why
Uh,
should we change.
Absolutely.
Uh, we conduct examination system of written practicals, interviews, group discussions, and everything. We moved the entire assessment system online, and the most easy ones to do was a viva voce. A viva voce required a industry person, a faculty member, to interview a student about a subject in a,
Yeah.
of course, in a lab or in a classroom session. It was difficult logistically in those days,
Mm-hmm.
but on Zoom now it is so simple. You just have to fix up a time. The student is there. The two industry or the two I would say assessors are there, and it happens in 15 minutes without any logistical challenges. So you only improvise because of challenges, you improvise because of these constraints, and so did we.
Superb, superb. Actually, it is said that need is a mother of invention. So, if not invention, at least innovations are happening. So, I believe that you have a heart towards innovation, either it be in the process side or tool side or even a mind side. I would call it. All the students are minds. Talking a little bit more about students, do you think their mindset is changing with this latest devices, latest types of technology aspects that they are able to acquire? Are they at times becoming challenging to the system at times, knowing a little bit more than what maybe the professors know? Do you think that is something that is again a good push, healthy push?
I believe it's a healthy push. It might irritate us sometimes because a Google might answer a student a question quicker than a teacher, and then the student just finds that he is more evolved or he has more knowledge than anyone else. So it does that irritating at times. But I think it's a healthy push for our teachers. Uh, these students are more knowledgeable, which means that they are now in the classroom demanding the higher level of knowledge or a higher sense of knowledge, which pushes our teachers to also improve. We all have been talking about the quality of education in India vis-a-vis the quality of education elsewhere in the world, especially in the Western world.
Mhm.
And when we compare, we have been comparing, we always felt we had to improve a lot or we have to work a lot on the quality of education, which is derived by the quality of teaching and the quality of teachers. So if there is a healthy push given to our teachers because the demand from students, I believe it, if I would say if there's a push, that is a healthy push because it is
Yes.
towards the betterment.
Excellent.
And the teachers have done it very well. I'll just put an example. No one of our none of our teachers were, of course, very proactive in using social media for
Mhm.
teaching. Of course, to share your personal pictures and thoughts, it is used by every one of us. I was amused when about 2 years back, which is quite before this pandemic has happened, one of our teachers took up the task and used Instagram to teach Python language.
Oh,
And he
wow.
did that superbly. And I could see the reviews of students. He shared the reviews with us in our review meetings. And I, in fact, was so overwhelmed that I made him teach all our teachers how to use Instagram to teach.
क्या बात
Now,
है?
now using Instagram to teach, first and foremost, clears the barrier from students to learn because they love Instagram. So
Yeah,
first and foremost, they love the methodology of teaching. Second, they start loving the teacher because he is reaching out to them.
true.
He is reacting to their need. And of course, because of this love and this affection, teaching learning is much more effective.
It's amazing to get a pulse of where students' heart is, what is that they are liking, and using that itself as
Yes.
maybe a key.
So
Uh,
we all, I do remember some days, I don't remember 3, 4 years back when we had debates in the educational systems, I would say admin systems of India, that how do we avoid students or prevent students from using mobile phones in classrooms? Hmm? We just reverse the thought. And I remember in a statement amongst our leadership team that students, making students away from mobile phones is now impossible. In fact, we are trying to make the river flow in the opposite direction.
mhm.
Instead of that, let us start thinking on how do we start making the students use mobile phones in classroom,
क्या बात है? Mhm.
which was a natural way for the river to flow, for them to adapt. So a teacher goes to a classroom and doesn't say, come on, keep your mobile phones on silent and keep them away in your bags. He says, come on, students, start using your mobile phones. I want everyone's mobile phone in their hands because I'm going to run a small online quiz right now.
But yeah, I think that says a lot about how we have to actually take the technology along with us. As such, if we look at as HATKE initiative, it talks about H for health, A for attitude, T for technology, K for knowledge, and E for engagement. I believe element of health is anyway for a survival of organization as yours. Being innovative, already encompassing different ways to do it. A for attitude, where I believe that it is an innovative attitude, a positive attitude to look at dimensions. T, I am using great use of technology. K for knowledge sharing, and education is about sharing of knowledge and acquiring knowledge itself. And I see a very kind of a different bond between even a leader like you, direct with the minds of the students, which is the crux of the thing, because people look up, oh, how he or she is thinking or behaving, and then whole organization lights up. So I think it's a great way of really driving this organization to that direction.
Thank you.
Bharatji, wonderful.
Thank you.
uh, Taking a little bit of a turn into the direction of industry and academia as such, I believe that you have a great amount of contribution into that, and a perspective, would definitely have a perspective on that. How do you see, there are said to be theoretically gaps between what industry demands and what is the raw material or students learning out of this education system? So any kind of perspective you would like to share?
We do a lot of work in this. In fact, that's, I would say, a first passion that I drive personally in the organization of enhancing the collaborations that we have with industries. With a small team of mine and the directors and the vice chancellor that we have, we reach out to industries on a personal basis to
Mhm.
have their contribution in our systems with our students. And I believe that's there is still a lot to do than what we have done. The only perspective means the larger perspective is that we have all matured. It was all right for all of us to crib about each other 20 years back, 25 years back. I remember platforms of various bodies where industries used to openly, I would say, criticize institutes for not having curriculums and students up to the mark of their requirements. And we used to be only listeners at that time because we were the recipients of the criticism.
Mhm.
I believe that it was all right for them to criticize at that time. And in the process, we have all evolved. We have learned from their teachings to us. We have learned from their interactions to us, and our professors, students have now groomed themselves to interact better and to engage better with the industries. The industries also, I would say, have matured. And my use of my purpose of using the word matured is because early on it was only maybe a dialogue, a
Mhm.
speech, and a criticism of a vendor who provides you human resource talent. But now the industries don't stop there. They are coming to campuses. They are
Right.
wanting to establish center of excellence, labs, project work in the college campuses. They are open to state students on internships. They are open to take faculty on small internships.
क्या बात है?
They are sending their people very, very frequently to institute campuses for engaging directly with faculty and students about the latest technologies and about the latest processes that they follow and they wish to implement. So all these measures of industries, or I would say companies that were absent about 15, 20 years back, or was only relevant for that maybe the top tier large scale corporations of India, has reached to even MSMEs and SMEs. Many of them are now engaging with institutes to develop the human talent that they need. I also would like to bring forth the point that the industries have now understood the value of institutes better
Right.
than before.
Right.
Early on, it was like, honestly, don't means I would like to be excused on this, but it was like a favor they used to do on institutes by giving them any
Oh, right.
support. Now the
Mhm.
industries accept and they behave that it is a two-way process.
True.
By helping the institute to develop their students, they are also helping themselves.
Right.
To cite an example, we have a very good relation with many MSMEs. One MSME gave us a project, or our students a project, other students a project uh, to develop a melting furnace automation app. They
Mhm.
are a foundry and they are a forging unit, something of that sort. So a simple melting furnace, which is a very, I would say, dirty area of the entire process. They decided to give students a project of developing an app. The students developed the app. It was implemented in the factory, and they appreciated it so well that in the next conference, or I would say the exhibition that the industry or that company participated, it was students stand on the stall to its explain to Dhyan?
Yeah, it is. I would say that it is where the industry has got its some requirement specification of how to take the raw material, like I call it as raw material, in the form of human resources, individuals, students. It's always good to shape it up the way that we want to acquire them in the system for the industry. And I think that extending of hand is, I would call it selfish, win-win situation. It is helping both sides, and it's a
Yes,
great. I think that's a great gesture. If I'm hearing it from institutes or education side, that if that is happening, there is a huge power ahead of us because
absolutely.
it. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, and it's also hard. It's also overwhelming that in the early days it was only meant for the large corporations to do. Now there is a lot of engagement from MSMEs and SMEs on institutes with institutes that we see. A lot of MSMEs are coming forward to engage with us, give our students their life on the shop floor projects. IT companies, again in the MSME segment, are giving students work from home type of projects even in these pandemic days, some small coding work or some programming work that they can do sitting from home. Our faculty is conducting some technology courses of the industry people uh, in their factory premises or in their
Wow.
company premises. And going forward, I see a lot of research being outsourced to us. In fact, that is what we are promoting, and that is what we are forecasting. That again, it is possible for maybe the large corporations to have their own research units. It is a struggle for the MSMEs to invest in research units and operate research units. And here is a platform again we can provide as institutes to them, because foremost that is our purpose. Research is one of our main purposes, and if we can become the, I would say, offloading centers of research, a lot of work of research, new innovations can happen on campus, guided and funded by the industry. I do forecast this to now strengthen up and pick up in the near future.
I think this thought is absolutely spot on because I see a lack, a kind of a weak side for MSME to have their own R&D center where they are kind of focusing on their operations. They are struggling to really establish themselves and grow. R&D is definitely a need, but they might not be able to focus on it. They might not have acumen to really do that. Where a college or institute like yours brings in that focus, and that's something that is the bread and butter for them.
Absolutely.
It's absolute spot on engagement that would happen, where we'll see a center of excellence or focus areas in which things could get written, and it is matter of evolution. If we take an example of say electric vehicle as a trend, I believe there also you would see a lot of things like this happening, Bharatji.
Absolutely, absolutely. So, uh, I believe the first model of electric vehicle, of course, would be developed by some large corporation. But on the Indian context, I believe the first ones have already happened on campuses, and they have not been funded, guided by the who's who of the automobile industry. Simple students doing their third year, second year engineering, fourth year engineering have come together. They have developed a vehicle. They have copied a system from this engine. They copied a transmission system from the other company. They have bought a motor from somewhere. They have bought a battery from somewhere. Assembled everything. And in the last 3 years, we are seeing competitions amongst institutes, colleges, universities, only on how fast does your electric vehicle run, how further does your electric vehicle run. So although this may not be commercializable right now, but I believe we have already are seeing the invention of technologies on campuses, only to be now further put into practice by the industries to use and to commercialize.
Right, right. Actually, I got amazed when I heard about this Baha as a competition, as you are referring to, where this vehicle has been made. There are 43 vehicles, and I believe your
Yes,
your institute stood some fourth of. I mean, it's not the matter of where we stand as a number, but it is matter of we are able to
absolutely.
create a vehicle.
Yes, yes. And the innovation around it means I personally saw the vehicle of my students. They asked me to inaugurate the vehicle, which means start the vehicle by switching on the key like we
Mm,
normally do in vehicles.
mm.
I switched on the key and there was no noise. And I said, "अरे गाड़ी चालू नहीं हो रहा है क्या?" तो
हाँ,
बोला, "सर गाड़ी चालू हो गया है, इंजन चालू, मोटर चालू हो गया है, आवाज नहीं है." I was amazed, and the next minute the person just drove the car in the campus. And
yeah,
this was frugal innovation of India. Uh, amazed. I'm sure
wonderful.
I am sure the industries are seeing this, appreciating this, and soon they are going to give a lot more engagement systems would be built for further strengthening this relationship between industry and academia.
Right. I think the direction is definitely there, as you said, for R&D centers to, and you use the word actually outsourced. Now, the way that it could be looked at is a very, very innovative outsourcing model in which students are available. Students are the resources, technically, with due respect to all these individuals and the human beings behind it. Are the resources industry is missing? They cannot invest in somebody to get hired and maybe at whatever salaries. uh, Education institute has got those resources in the form of all the tools given to the education institute form in the form of crunching the numbers. You would have CAD softwares which are given to them to be used, and that is something that is MSME not able to buy on their own as invest, right?
Also, one more resource is access of great minds. For example, at Vishwakarma University, we have a very strong relationship with Nanyang Technology University in Singapore and
Uh-huh.
with State University of New York at Binghamton. Now, this network is also available. So tomorrow, if citing the example of electric vehicles, which we mentioned, if tomorrow a challenge is thrown to our students to develop an improvisation on some technology around the electric vehicle, not only are the students there, not only are the tools which you mentioned are there, not only are our teachers there as a resource, but also we have the network of experts of this technology from outside India,
Right.
top universities, ready to collaborate and work on joint projects.
Wonderful. I think that is going to be extremely powerful, as I see. Another dimension that I see as an academia and industry interaction is technically outsourcing of any kind of project for in the form of a funded project of any dimension that you see. So, do you see that there is a trend of the teachers learning consulting work, getting into another project where it is a money earner for them, and also they get put to a state of the art application of their knowledge?
So I believe we are already at level one on that. Uh, by level one, I mean that a lot of companies are now giving live problem statements to students and teachers. Early on, when maybe I did my engineering, I was fortunate to work on a live project in the company I did my project in. But many students were given theoretical projects.
Mhm.
But today, and what I'm saying are not numbers that you can count on fingers. These are large number of projects given to a large number of teachers and students to work on. All of them are live and all of them are hands-on. But I restrict my statement to level one because still we have not been able to, I would say, give value to the industries and which they can appreciate and compensate us back with money.
Okay.
That I believe would be level two, wherein the same projects will come, students will work, the faculty will work, we will be a time-based, there would be time-based milestones, uh, quality milestones, performance milestones by these students and teachers, and the industry would be willing to make commercial payments for this or monetary payments for this.
I,
I believe that is just around the corner. Uh, we should be migrating or graduating or upgrading to this level 2 very soon.
I think absolutely yes, and you actually carved out kind of a maturity model, one,
Mm.
two, three. I think if at all you are at level one, it is a great assessment, and to be humble also is good, because we have uh, universities in the world, as well universities in India, IITs or ISCs already having this model. So I think it's not far to be reaching, and I believe a strong message I'm hearing, apart from getting technically any educational institute can get swayed towards corporates or larger organization. But I'm hearing that there is a kind of buzz around MSME, which is a very good news, because that side there is a need, and I think you have picked up the right nerve in the market, I believe.
Yes, and we have had great relationships built up over the last few years through MSMEs and for MSMEs with us. We enjoy and we learn a lot from large corporations. We continue to do that, but we believe it is the MSMEs also that we would like to focus, and the volumes that with which we work, we can't restrict ourselves only to large corporations.
Wonderful.
And vice versa.
Right. Taking a little bit of switch, and I think entrepreneurship is something, or business is something that from the beginning of your life, maybe, or at least the focus that you have for your life is business, right? Let it be education or let it be manufacturing. So how do you look at your organization creating entrepreneurs? Do you see that that's the focus?
I would say that's a part of our job. Again, I would say, because see, we don't look at us being the college or a campus or a university where we are there for finally getting the student enrolled, completing the course, and then getting him a job, because that is only a 5-year process, 6-year process. Honestly, we also believe that don't evaluate us on only placements. If my placements are good for this year, I am a good college. If my placements are bad for this year, I'm a bad college. That's only, I would say, a first step success. I remember reading the report of Stanford University about some months back, where they were deriving the model of tracking the performance of their students after graduating from Stanford 20 years.
Wow.
And that they believed was the ideal time to see the success of the university. Which means that today a student will get a job, but it doesn't really mean that he's successful in life. Or I would say, if a student doesn't get a job, it really doesn't mean that he is not successful in life.
Right.
He has a lot to do in life. Life is too long for him at the age of 20, 21 to define success or failure. Entrepreneurship is something that we wish to inculcate. The principles of entrepreneurship are taught as a theory. The practices of entrepreneurship are given as an exposure to students through a lot of people visiting the campus and speaking to students about their journeys of business and journeys of entrepreneurship. A lot of students do get motivated, encouraged, and form small groups, small teams. I would say the early partners, and get up into some venture or get up into some activity. I have seen success stories also of our students that in the good wave in startups. I have seen success stories of students who have gone to do a job and then come back to entrepreneurship after maybe 2-5 years of being the job. I believe it's not, of course, the fastest win the first theory sells everywhere, that if you become an entrepreneur or a startup, as soon as you graduate, you are celebrated more. But these are one-time celebrations. Life is too long to have only one celebration. It's important to sustain a celebration or sustain success. So entrepreneurship is taught, but not from the objective that chalo abhi finished graduation, abhi startup chalu karo. That's not the objective.
Right.
The objective is you nurture your startup. But it's all right if you fail. If you get a job, nothing wrong in getting a job also. Pursue your passion for entrepreneurship after 2, 5, 10 years of job, whenever you feel ready for it. The core principles of entrepreneurship will remain with you. And if you are again wanting to revisit them, Vishwakarma is open to you.
Wonderful. I think that's absolutely a matured way of finding out the pulse of the student when he or she wants to take up element of a job to learn functions within the organization, or getting a limited expose to really make him or her more mature to jump on a larger scale, or to take up entrepreneurship maybe as a startup immediately. I think that choice gives a flexibility for the young mind to adapt to the pace of the context that you have. I think that's great. But do you see that you already have something called as an incubation center for some specific business initiatives to be driven, or that's on the anvil, or it's already in shape?
We have done that and we have failed in that. Because the early concepts of incubation center was only around physical space. And that is where we went wrong. And I would say in the entire ecosystem of incubation centers in the world or in India or in Pune, we believe incubation center means a space where a person comes, sits, incubates an idea, gets mentored by some random mentors here and there, and
Uh,
then develops the idea and that's into converted to business. So we went wrong in that space. So we have now wiped out this concept of physical space.
mm,
That a physical classroom or a lab is not an incubation center. You might name it for your for glamour sake, but then that is not what is going to add any value to a startup. What startups needs are actually mentoring, then guidance, and maybe even criticism about his idea, about his customer segmentation, about his realization whether customer's ability to pay for the activity or the product or service that he's developing, helping them with developing the business models and financial models, and more importantly, in today's world of startups, they all need the early fundings. Uh, so with this experience behind us, we now only work with students on developing these models, working with them to nurture them,
right.
and giving them the right exposure to the outside network of, I would say, investors, early age investors, or mentors, or people who guide startups, so that they work with them. We have given up the space of we have given up the idea of space,
Mm.
because students don't need space. They can very well efficiently work in a Starbucks or a cafe coffee or even in a college canteen with a laptop. They don't need a room for that. It's only the mentor guidance and the access to a network which we are trying to provide to them.
I think it's well said. Wherever typically incubation model gets swayed towards getting early investment for an idea or a rebuck to read and blindly individuals get focused on that my idea is well received or is successful if I get the funding,
Mm,
and a question honest question about whether you really require funding or
mm,
whether you require space or what
mm,
kind of resources you require. These fundamental ideas themselves are missing, so I think it's very prudent approach to really get them going, push them in the right direction where they are getting kind of struggling, and give them the right idea to really move it forward. I think that is definitely a right direction that you're taking. Switching a
and
little bit as a path that we're looking at, there is a lot of talk about outcome-based model where you have students also getting measured. It's a conventional thing. You are having your professors or teachers getting measured, vice versa, mutually, and you have your vehicle of education in the form of the way that you are having the pedagogy to teach them, the model of teaching also getting evaluated. So do you see that you are able to cope up with that? How are you looking at that idea from
see,
your?
that's important and very, very important, I would say,
Mm,
because if you look back at our systems, and mentioned the education systems over the last so many years of after independence, we have always been called lethargic. And people have called us lethargic not because of their choice of using that word, because we were lethargic, I would say.
mm,
And by being lethargic meant that there was no accountability on our part. uh, Education institutes were, honestly, I remember early days, my father used to tell me that if a person from the industry feels that there is a lot of stress in his work, he comes to a college to teach because there is no stress at work over here.
okay.
And these were the thought processes of those times. Of course, because of these systems of no accountability or less accountability, we had a huge divide. You had a lot of quality challenges. We had industry, as we were talking earlier on about industry, mentioning to us that you are not doing good jobs, your
Mm.
students are not up to date, and so on. By being in the by being measured on our outputs, on our outcomes, I believe our accountability has gone up, uh, which is a need of the time, because it's everyone's hard-earned money put in the system. If
True.
students are paying money, their parents are paying the tuition fees in India, in the Indian context, it is hard-earned money, and they are, I would say, not buying the service, because that's a wrong word to use in the education
Yes.
parlors, but they are expecting that their students
A
to be taught
value.
well,
Yeah.
to be groomed well, to be
Mm,
grown well. When the government is sponsoring us by any funds for research or through some scholarships, Government's money is also our tax paid money, and somehow we have to be responsible towards even this money that comes to us. It is not free money, it is a responsible money that is coming to us, and gone are those days. And I believe we have to be responsible for anyone that gives us anything. uh,
Absolutely.
Foremost, there should be nothing, there is nothing free, there should not be nothing anything free,
Ever.
because any resource that comes to us has been paid by someone. We might not know who that someone is. So outcome-based performance reviews by the government, by the accrediting bodies, by the parents, by the society, by the media, I believe is good. Uh, we should be accountable for what we do. We should be accountable for our performance, and we should be accountable for our students' careers.
Wonderful. I think I am somehow hearing an education head talking like a business language. In business, you measure everything by outcome, right? What is your quarter over quarter? What is the growth rate? And I was hearing also your numbers about how you are growing or you are measuring performance of your organization. It's wonderful. Actually, if that professionalism starts at the leadership, I think it is going to go long. Whoever hears this kind of words as portion of say MSME or corporate, it is definitely going to be attracting those minds to really make sure that there is a hands getting extended to do the collaboration further. I believe that is the way I see it, Bharat.
Thank you, Shirish.
Right? Uh, yeah, you were saying something.
No, that's all. Thank you.
Good. So, as part of the whole ecosystem, we spoke about students, we spoke about the teacher, the system, but parents play a lot of role, right? By virtue of having knowledge, not having knowledge, not to build any controversies, but how do you address that piece of the puzzle, Bharatji?
Many of the parents are supportive, largely because they understand and appreciate the work we do is for the benefit of their students. Whenever we are good, we are good. Whenever we are strict or we are over, I would say, over monitoring their wards, their child, still they believe in us, that we are doing it for the benefit of their own children, for our students, and they generally support us. See, any extremism is bad. So when we talk about us, all of us being college friends, we all have college friends whom we nurture even in today after 15-20 years of passing out of colleges. In our college days, we played, we fought, uh, we we
We
we
enjoyed,
we
we actually.
shared, we enjoyed, we did everything together. Uh, and there were good times, there were bad times, there were challenging times.
Mm.
But I see parents getting involved too much into how much of a fights are you getting into with your friends? Are your friends right? And are they bullying you a bit too much?
Right.
I know extremism of everything is bad. If bullying is happening, it is bad. But
Yeah.
then यार मजा भी तो आना चाहिए
Honestly,
दोस्त कॉलेज लाइफ में वो
I
मजा
think
जा रहा है because of this
absolutely. I
micromanagement.
think it's a golden line. It's a line to be drawn, and it is matter of delegating to the students, delegating to your
Mm.
child, making him to make mistakes. Actually, we tend to get more
Yes,
overprotective as parents, and
absolutely,
it is coming out
absolutely.
of that. It's more of, I would say, it is also out of time at your hand. It is resources at your hand. Maybe parents are getting more exposure to that and using it for the student, where the student has to be
Absolutely.
actually let loose.
Mm.
जीलो जीलो तेरी इन जिंदगी जैसे चाहिए वैसे.
Yes, yes.
I think that kind of now a little bit moving further into what is I look at you maybe around 17 years into this space. What's your dream project, or what do you want to get to? Uh,
See, we are here for creating an impact, and the impact is clearly not on us, but impact is on our students. So
mhm.
that's our very very simple and clear purpose. That whoever enrolls with Vishwakarma, uh, we endeavor that we create an impact on him, that he meets a success out of his life. Uh, we are very very clear that whatever happens, we cannot go down the other side of this road of our purpose. And whatever happens, we have to do everything possible to reach out to every student of ours, and we don't leave anyone behind.
Mm-hmm.
The volumes that we have, it is challenging, but then it's all right. It's good to have such huge challenges and work on these huge challenges. So the dream that we have is not a single dream of us being something. The dream is that whoever comes to Vishwakarma as a student has a successful life. And we don't define success over here. The word
Right.
success is very, very, very individual and personalized word.
Right.
For a person like me, business is something that I'm passionate about, so I should have business success. For a person who may not be a business oriented person, but he is a person of his family, and having a great family life would be a measure of his success.
True.
So we don't want to derive a word, or we don't want to compartmentalize the word success, but we only want to see to it that the dream is that every student who comes to Vishwakarma has a successful life, and we work towards that purpose.
Right, right. It's like nurturing a sampling, if I may call it,
Absolutely,
with
absolutely.
the right nourishment, and let it grow, if at all, vertical, horizontal, spread its wing, multiply, whatever the way that, eventually be successful.
Yes.
I think that's the way is the motto. I believe that's great. Uh, I find you to be absolutely sorted in your thoughts, very clear in what is and would be the future. So where do you get it? Is there a role model, or are you deriving it out of patient thinking, or any kind of grooming that you have gone through?
So of course, I have a passion for learning. Means if there is something that really I love to do is learn, and learn from everyone and everywhere. Uh, let it be let it be the great universities of the world,
Hmm.
like the Harvards or the MITs. I do try to engage myself with some professors or from their classes, that I learn something new.
Hmm.
Uh, one good learning for me has been diversification. You spoke about me being very professional and this, but that I believe when you start supplying to a customer in auto space, and I know you work for the manufacturing industry, which may be supplying to auto or auto
Yes.
components.
Right.
In that space, there is no margin for mistakes. There is no margin, or I would say there's no pardon for mistakes.
Absolutely.
And when you work in that culture where there is no pardon for mistakes, you don't make mistakes.
True.
So a lot of learnings from this diversification of business happened for me. I also normally follow other business practices and learn from them. For example, we all learn from Amazon customer service.
Hmm.
And whenever I look at the Amazon app, I am amazed by the way they
Engage.
improvise on customer service.
Right.
When we go to a bank and we see a seamless transition from a manual physical banking process to a totally online process,
Right.
it inspires, and there's a lot of learning that how can we also transform ourselves from a classroom based system to an
Superb.
online teaching system.
Hmm.
So you only learn from peers, you learn from the market, you learn from institutes of higher learning, and you learn from primary diversification.
Hmm.
So all these things are that I do, even I would say unconsciously. There is no natural flow to it,
Right.
and whatever I do, I share it with my team, uh, uh, and they all grow in that manner. They all learn. We all learn together. We are also very open to experimentation, uh, and we have had a lot of failed experimentations in the last 10 years.
Hmm.
We became autonomous in VIT in 2008, and from then that day till now, every year the syllabus has been changing.
Yeah.
Every year the assessment systems have been changing. We only talk about success stories when we talk to media or we talk to our parents, but there have been a lot of experiments which have gone wrong, and it's all right. We believe that because they have gone wrong, we know what not to do, and that in fact keeps us also doing new experiments. So we are very, very open and open culture towards experiments. So when a faculty, like I spoke earlier, came out with a system of teaching Python through Instagram, it was an experiment,
Mm.
and we only encouraged him to do that experiment. He did that, found success, and we could just replicate it to other teachers.
I think key to success is definitely where you look at the situation, assess it, take positive, negative, whatever is there, be open. I think that is a key word Let it be something from student side or teacher side or parent side or anybody from the Western side or any other institute to learn. I think the element of learning is keeping you moving, I believe, into where things are happening in the right direction.
Yes.
Good, good. Any kind of personal role model for you, whom you aspire, or take some kind of guidance or take some kind of inputs in a from either from West or Indian side?
So many of them, of course, being the businessman, I'll relate to people that I follow and I learn and are inspired from. One of them being Steve Jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, how do you keep things so simple? How do you keep things so neat, yet so much effective and so much beautiful and so much useful? And create a most valuable company on earth out of that. So
Right.
I learned from Mr. Jobs, I learned from Steve Jobs how to keep things neat, simple, yet usable, and yet profitable. Second, I also got a lot of inspiration from Mr. Mukesh Ji Ambani,
Mm-hmm.
thinking so ahead of time. Not only him, but maybe also his father, the late Sri Dhirubhai Ji Ambani, where we started with cloth business, forecasted petroleum to be a commodity which would none of us had doubt. So got into the petroleum business. Mukesh Ji further saw that petroleum might see the end of this, and he forecasted technology to be something that he invested into and invested into Geo. And today we see what Geo is grown in the last 4 or 5 years of its
Yeah.
existence, uh, and so much ahead of and created a brand amongst all the businessmen that that's the brand to invest in. We might have our reservations around the brand of Reliance when it comes to customers, but definitely investors have a lot of trust and belief in the brand of Reliance. We just see him raising so much money in the last 3 months of pandemic and clearing at 9 months ahead of his target. Something really inspiring them to learn from. There are many others in life that you come and you meet and you learn from them, but to mention these two are my favorites.
Wonderful. And Geo moving towards collaborating with Facebook, the world leader in the ecosystem,
Yes.
and bringing out maybe the impact. I think he has touched the key element of Indian business in the form of MSME, in the form of Kirana stores. You know how forward-looking he is. Where if you see in pandemic everything was closed, Kirana stores were not closed.
Not. Mm.
So, being grounded to that extent, I believe this technology intervention is going to reach to all the nooks and corners of businesses moving forward. Great. I think I really don't want to stop the flow of our discussion, and we will keep on discussing otherwise also. Uh, but maybe asking you about any kind of message that you have for the community or individuals who are kind of looking. Now the businesses are starting, but it will take some 6 months, 1 year at times. People have to really look at themselves to find a completely different type of business or skill, acquire skill. So you have any kind of message for them?
So, the only thing that works for me is perseverance, or I would say has worked for me is perseverance.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we all have challenges in life. I would like to give a snapshot. In the early days of the factory establishment in 2008, 2009, 2010, uh, the entire factory was ready. But because of the global financial crisis that hit the Indian industry and global industry in 2008,
Mm-hmm.
we lost a few orders. We in fact did not have any orders for the first 6 months of us starting the factory.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, we were into a shape where it was entire fixed cost, variable cost, but zero revenue.
Uh,
Uh, and what I see today is not today, but at least in the early April and the early May is
mm-hmm.
something similar where the entire factory is ready, the fixed cost is invested, the manpower is there, the raw material is there, but the customers are not there.
I
So
understand.
we have to again reshape ourselves, our thinking that we did it 10 years back. We have to redo it.
Yeah.
And it's all right. None of us have done this as a mistake to us.
So.
So we didn't cause this pandemic. So it was not our mistake. It was something, God forbid, it was something that was something that has fallen upon the entire mankind. and everyone is redoing it, and so you have to do it. You can't complain, try that why has this happened with you. It has happened to you, it has happened to everyone, and maybe worse to many than you. So
True.
just have to be grateful for what you have. Just have gratitude to God that you are better placed than many people who have to travel thousands of kilometers and miles to go back to their homes, or who have lost jobs or have bankrupt businesses.
Mhm.
Just redo the entire story of your success once again. It's difficult, but you have no option.
Absolutely great. I think it's a great message where one has to reinvent himself or herself, not only the businesses, and stay at the front with the thought that there is a conviction, there is a perseverance to come up with whatever you have. Actually, I believe in one saying that I always quote. One quote is there. It says that start where you are with what you have, make something out of it, never be satisfied. It's by G.W. Carver.
Truly.
Absolutely sums up well what you said. I think great to have you, Bharatji, and wonderful, insightful discussion that we had. Bharatji, thanks a
Thank
lot.
you, Shirish. It is an honor. Thanks for structuring it so well. I had the honor and the pleasure of talking to you. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. And, best wishes from us to you as an individual, you as a professional, you as a head leader in the education space. May all collaborations that are expected to happen, and you grow individually, professionally, and university takes, really great success moving forward.
Thank you. Thank you,
Thanks a lot.
Shirish. Thank you
Thank
so
you.
much.
Thank you.
बिजनेस कोई भी हो, सक्सेस की नींव हम रखते हैं।
बुलंदियों को छूने की आपके अरमानों की उम्मीद जगाती जोत है, हर सपनों का हम स्रोत है।
सही स्ट्रेटेजी, परफेक्ट डिसीजन मेकिंग और बिजनेस ग्रोथ के लिए हम आपके साथ कंधे से कंधा मिलाकर आपकी स्वप्न पूर्ति करते हैं। स्त्रोत कंसल्टेक, सिनर्जाइजिंग ट्रांसफॉर्मेशन।